Okay, Siam, during the last episode, we have heard about your journey from Bangladesh to all the way to United States, and we know that you have taken a leap of faith. You had a really promising career in Bangladesh, but you chose to pursue your higher studies aspiration in US, and in 3 months in, you ran into a huge setbacks of losing your fund from your master's program. We'd like to know how did you recover from that debacle, if you would share your story from that point.
Good to be back in the second episode here with you. So yeah, just to remember the context myself, this was in 2009, and I think in October I heard that my professor, he said that he's going to go to a new university, and if I want to keep the funding, the only way to do it is to move with him to a different school which was in a more rural area, which I didn't want to do. Basically I decided to stay in Houston, which is a little bit bigger city, but then I also knew that I had literally 2 more months of funding which will cover that semester, but after that I didn't know what to do back then. So first thing is that I definitely didn't want to stress my parents, so I didn't inform my parents that I lost my funding.
Wow.
Because this is first of all kind of like a failure, you can say, of one sort, not intentional, but failure, some kind of like a bad news. And then secondly, I knew that the moment I inform my parents will be very stressed. They won't be able to do anything because they don't know anything in the US. So I decided that okay, I'll just not inform them that I lost the funding. But then obviously this brought me even more pressure, because I was like, okay, what do I do in the next 2 months that I can actually stay in the US and pay for my tuition fees? As you know that most of the universities in US are quite expensive. Per semester it's at least 15 to 20,000 USD only in the tuition fee, and then there are living costs and everything, so it's quite expensive. Per semester it takes around 20 to 30k. So I was basically started
setting your short-term goals now.
I mean, I had some funding from the previous thing for 2 months. I was okay for that 2 months, but from January 2010 I didn't have anything. So what I started doing is that that time I was primarily mostly hanging out with international students or with different international student association, or I was going to the Muslim Students Association, and I was also in the Bangladeshi Students Association. These are all the associations I was connected with or I knew. And basically I spoke with pretty much everyone saying that, hey, is there any odd job, because I need to survive here, I don't have any pathway, runway, what do I do? And through one of these network of networks or connections of connections, I finally got a job in this a diner called Dennis. It's very popular in the US. Popular means it's a very low-key diner. It's not for a very posh group of people, but it's a mass people friendly diner kind of a thing.
Working class
diner, and then it's very it's ubiquitous. Every state has it. It's called Dennis. Everyone knows Dennis in the US. So and I didn't have a car back then, so I was commuting through bus, and then Houston doesn't have a good bus ecosystem. Only New York has a very good public transport ecosystem. Houston, you have to go through bus, and then you have to wait between the buses. So for me, from my house to Dennis, it was taking 2 hours one way every day.
Wow.
Through bus.
That's like Bangladesh. I mean,
yeah, staying in the traffic, but it's just because the bus coordinations, I had to take 3 buses and there are wait times and things like that. And the Dennis job started at 8 a.m. because that's the schedule I got, and I had to wake up at 6 in the morning every day to wait for the bus, take this to and then go in the Dennis. And Dennis was a very interesting experience for me. And first of all, now I'm saying it off the records, but it was kind of under the hood, because as an F1 student you actually cannot be
employed outside campus.
No, you cannot be. So,
okay.
So it's not. At this moment, I hope that USCIS is not running after me anymore. But that
you don't have any account with USCIS at the moment, as far as I know.
So yeah, I was doing it under the hood, as a cash job that time. And then basically it was from 8 a.m. to it was a 6 hours job. And in the beginning I was mostly, so Dennis is a diner. There are who is serving, and there are hosts. And I was basically a host in the beginning. Host is someone who is just seating them in the chair, but not really bringing the food from the. This is host. I was cleaning the glasses and then doing that, and then I went from host to being in the cashier counter. Man, the cashier counter, I was so terrible because I was so new in the US.
Yeah.
and I hated the customers who were giving me cash because there are coins and I don't know the coins.
God. I can imagine.
Because credit cards are like, this is a good customer. I was like looking at the coins and trying to see which coin is what. And all the customers, there is a big line. They're like pissed off.
And you were very slow handling
I was very
cash.
slow because I mean, I have never done these things. So like, I'm very slow in this. So I'm like the manager there. The thing is that I came there as a recommendation, through a recommendation. So the manager was not happy with me. You were like, okay, Siam, you're not even good in this. You are not good as a host. You are not good as in the cashier. Let's put you in the server role. Okay, do that server role. Even that I was terrible because I was a new international student. I don't know the ordering system. I don't know some of the English accent. I was also having hard time. There are different types of customers coming. So this is one part of my life. Remember that I'm also in the pressure of first doing my masters. It's not like I'm out of the credit and there is a break. I'm doing my full master's degree with the credit system. I cannot really reduce the CGPA.
You have to pass the test, fill your assignments.
Minimum I have to maintain, because without that I'll lose any chance of any future funding ever, because I have to maintain a certain level of CGPA. And then basically I was trying to get another professor, trying to convince another professor. So I was in electrical engineering department and I was pretty much going to every professor's, I knocked every professor's door possible in all the departments. It's in University of Houston, the engineering department is called Cullen College of Engineering. So I went pretty much to all the departments, basically whoever is working with material science, because my thing was more electrical material science / electronic. None of them were like, no, I mean, it's in the middle of the semester, we already have couple, next semester everyone is funded, like, sorry, we cannot do anything. So I think this was, and every day I had a kind of like a fixed ritual. I think the days were so stressful. I woke up at 6, traveling, went to Dennis, did the Dennis. Some of the days I was standing 6 hours every day with no sitting, my legs were hurting. Then going to university, doing the courses, and then coming back home. I think I came back home at like from all the classes at around like 10 p.m. or something. And then my ritual was I fill up the bathtub and literally just lie in the bathtub for half an hour and cry. That was my daily ritual, because I couldn't inform my parents of this bad news. This was my daily cycle. I'm like, this is the suffering, this is the thing I'm going through. So, and I was like, I don't know what miserable mistake I have done. Like, I was just going through a very depressive, tough state. I didn't have any friends there because obviously I'm new. So I was completely handling all of these things alone. And in December, I think in December, I remember that this was in the like beginning of December, first week of December, there was this one professor who said that, hey Siam, like I am not sure that if I can fund you, but there are literally 2 more weeks in December remaining. If you want, you can work in my lab for free, voluntarily, and I cannot guarantee you anything. But if you work, I will see that if I can give you funding or not. So I started working in his lab pretty much for free. So again, doing Dennis, doing the courses and doing the thing. I had like basically like no life.
So you take another job which doesn't pay you anything.
And with no promise. He said that we will see after 2 weeks what will happen. So I was doing that like, and I think, so this was one of the, I will definitely remember that time. This is one of my like tough, I mean I had went through multiple tough times, but this was one of my toughest times in my life. Is that I think it was I'm not sure if it was a Friday or like near the weekend, and I was like in the Dennis, my schedule that day was like, you know, like there is this like when in the Dennis like there are like these tables, and then beside the table there are like these potties where the kids like babies sit. I don't know what are those called, like potty seats. Booster seats. Oh, I remember. Those are called booster seats. So the kids sit there, and in the back side of the Dennis, I was just basically washing the booster seats. I was washing all the booster seats which has been piled up. I was washing them with my hand. And I was thinking that, man, like just 6 months ago, I have been studying in the best MBA school in Bangladesh. I had my own side hustle. I was working in Biman Bangladesh Airlines, which is the national airlines. I had the best like peak career. And then what happened in the 6 months that I'm here? Like, what did I do wrong? So I really fucked up. This was such a I don't know, like such a big mistake. I should have actually stayed in Bangladesh. This was such a big mistake.
You started questioning your decision.
I started questioning my decision, and it was negative from all directions. So not possible to not question it. And then the fun thing is that the next day, so Christmas Day, December 23rd was the pre-Christmas day. After that it goes to complete vacation. December 23rd, 2009 is a very special day in my life, because my professor, this guy who I have been working with, he just came like before the like Christmas closing. He just like opened the door and I was working in the lab. He's like, hey Siam, like how is the work going, blah blah. Like, yeah, I'm doing and stuff. Like he's like, hey, like we were closed in the Christmas, so from tomorrow you won't have anything. But by the way, I just wanted to let you know that I really liked your dedication and hard work, and you have proven yourself. So from next semester, I'm going to give you this funding and this kind of scholarship. And this scholarship was 2x better than my previous scholarship. It was fully funded, and I had extra cash for my like even side, like the RA, it was a research assistant position. So the extra amount was really a lot that time as a student. So with my tuition paid, it was I think 1400 per month in RA, which is a lot that time in Texas, in Houston. So it was really good. I literally like, I just cried in front of him, like you just like before Christmas, literally a day before I was questioning everything. And then the next day I got it. And I think that night I had the biggest, one of my major realizations of my life, which I still carry, is that your, whatever you go through, like ups and downs, many of these things, like either you believe in God or the universe, whatever, I mean, whoever you believe in, doesn't matter. But the event that in December 23rd, 2009, this good news will happen was kind of almost predetermined even without my knowledge. But whoever is the controller, if they just called me when I lost the funding few months ago, that hey Siam, you lost your funding, but you don't know that after 2 months you will hear a epic news, then I would have gone through the same struggle but happy. I would have like, okay, sure, I'm washing dishes, oh great, let's wash dishes, like I don't care, because I know the good news. And that's the time I realized that okay, like good news is always coming. So it's just like the whoever is the communication person didn't just call me that hey man, you lost it, but 2 months later you will get it.
In the meantime, you
have to go through the suffering but no need
give the best of you, like in everything you do.
Yeah, best, but like also let's not make the suffering more miserable, because you're already in suffering.
Yeah.
But I basically had a really tough time in these 2 months, just questioning myself and kind of butchering myself. So that was my first learning, that in the end of the tunnel there is always light, but remembering that and really believing in that, then even if you're in, no matter what kind of tunnel you go through, you will always be able to get out of it, and get out of it healthy and happy. So that was my first like learning as a person, which I still carry. Like everything I do has this foundation built in. And that's the time I think I also had this idea that no matter how low you are, your goal is to have your heads high in those days. And whenever your heads are high and you're having the high days, it's important to keep your like heads more humble when you're in the high, because it's always going to swing. And that's basically one of the learnings. I think like I never take anything for granted anymore. Like I know that I can be a multi-millionaire and lose the things next day, but I think I'll be okay. And this I'll be okay mindset has been trained really early in my, like at that age. So that also came into my entrepreneurial muscle, but the saying that also got built into it. So nothing can really, hopefully completely, you know, like take me off the guards in that way.
Can we say that from that moment when you heard the good news, your heydays started to take off? Or
yeah, I mean the next year 2010 was amazing. I was traveling, and I'm like an adventurous person, you know, so like I was doing all the, you know, like all the, I started planning that okay, I'll have to do all the 50 states within the next few years. So I started doing that, and then yeah, I also started building like a Facebook community in 2020. It's called Higher Study Abroad, and I just started this as a Facebook group because I liked mentoring and tutoring, as I said.
Yeah.
And I actually had a lot of these students who have been mailing me and say that hey Siam, you're not there anymore, but maybe you can teach us online. So I started teaching them in YouTube. I actually had a YouTube channel back then, and that time I think the group was so small. Right now Higher Study Abroad has 220,000 members. It's one of the largest groups in Bangladesh, where anyone who is going to study abroad knows Higher Study Abroad right now. But this was in 2010. It literally had 500 members. It's new. And I was spending, so I was doing my masters, I was happy, like I was doing well. And then on the side, I was spending a lot of time in my kind of like managing the group, creating the videos and teaching people GRE online. And then one of the days I remember that I was in Houston in the housing complex in the parking lot. I was talking with my mom, that I was asking my mom that, okay, mom, like I am doing my masters and blah blah blah, all these things, but I'm spending so much time every day, 3 to 4 hours every day after this, into this Facebook group for free. What's my benefit in it? I was like, am I dumb? Like, because I do dumb things all the time or sometimes. So like, is it a dumb thing I'm doing again? And my mom said that, okay, like how long did it take for you to gather all this information in higher studies, GRE? I said that like, if someone guided me, it would have at least saved me 1 year of my life, because I lost 1 year into just didn't know anything. And I was like, I didn't have any guidance. My mom said that, okay, if you have 500 group members, well, my mom said something which is not logical, but it was emotionally it worked for me. So my mom said that, well, I'm in Siam, if it takes 1 year, and if you have 500 group members, then you are kind of moving Bangladesh 500 years ahead. But through this thing, you're moving every person's 1 year, so total Bangladesh 500 years ahead. And I was that time such young, like young person. I'm like, wow, this is so
such
cool.
A dopamine boost.
I was like, wow, this is such a dopamine boost.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, my mission in life is that every person I meet, I want to save just 1 year of their lives. What they do with that's their wish. I will just remove that roadblock, and it will be 1 year saving in their life. And that became kind of like I became an addict of this 1 year saving milestone.
Okay, so it's really interesting. I mean, of course, you've already started your entrepreneurial journey in Bangladesh, but so far nothing happened. I feel like this is what you've done with that Facebook group. You found another niche to practice your, or nurture your entrepreneurial spirit there. How did it go from there? Like from you are doing your masters, you are helping students from this forum, also focusing in your research. How did it go when you are done with your masters?
Yeah, so I agree. Like, I think the entrepreneurial seed probably got injected couple times, and I found myself in like multiple ways, different times. So this was through more like online communities, something which I have not experienced before. But coming back to your question about my master's, so I was doing my master's thesis. My professor was one of the most it was the beginning, it was a good news back then, but basically this was one of the toughest professors I have ever encountered. He had, I didn't know because I was desperate back then. He had one of the hardest ratings in the Rate My Professor, like one of the worst ratings possible.
Wow.
And then actually I didn't notice something before, is that under his lab, only the international students were working. So none of the Americans were actually working, because
they couldn't survive.
They couldn't survive, and they didn't have to stick, because international students are tied to their visa and they are more like binding there. Anyway, my master's thesis was in nanofabrication or thin film fabrication, but by the time my master's degree got over, I got completely desensitized with like my master's thesis and everything. I was like, I'm done. And I have decided that, okay, like I went through kind of like another existential crisis, just kind of like bringing long story short, this is in the end of 2011 already. That time I had a big kind of decision making point again. So I had one decision making point from Bangladesh to US, and then end of 2011 I have another decision making point, is that I do not like thin film fabrication. I do not like to work with this kind of tools, because this doesn't give me a freedom. I have seen some of my alumni who are working in Intel and big companies, but I'm not saying that those professions are not good, those are very worthwhile, but for me I needed more freedom and not dependent on a lab or not dependent on a in-person location kind of a thing. I wanted always something which is very easily learnable as a skill, and I can also do something on the side and become independent. So I started thinking, what is the major or what is the field which is in that way, and I figured out that, I actually always liked Adobe Premiere Pro when I was in my university making movies. I always liked software and tools. Like I loved tools. Okay. And play with tools, software tools. And I realized that, okay, like I have never given actually like computer tools or technologies a chance. I always only studied engineering.
And dealt with hardware.
Only hardware, primarily hardware, primarily even on fabrication level, like material science.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, let me give a chance to the software and tools. And basically, I decided that okay, I'll do a major career switch. One of my friends in New York, or actually not a friend, friends of friend in New York, said that hey, Siam, in New York there is this tutoring center. If you come there in person, they will teach you programming and help you land a job. So I'm like, okay, like I basically had some hope that okay, I'll move to New York. I visited New York before, and I always had a dream of being there. And whenever I thought that oh, there are some leads there, I basically informed my professor. Actually, one small thing is that when I graduated, I was working in OPT in my professor as a like a lab manager, because OPT it's like very low paid and almost voluntary level fees my professor was paying, and I knew pretty much everything of his systems. I was doing that, but obviously not happy. Suddenly this New York option came. So that time I had, I think like only $3,000 saved in cash in bank. And then I had a $3,000 old Nissan Altima, almost broken. So I basically told my professor that, hey, I actually got an opportunity, got a job in New York, which wasn't true. I basically kind of like lied there, like because my professor will not let me go otherwise. So I said that hey, I got a job in New York. I have to actually like leave. So I'll organize everything within a month, but then I'll leave. So in Houston, starting from Houston, I started with this $3,000 in cash, and with this broken Nissan Altima, I started towards New York. And after going to New York, actually the first thing I heard from this friend of friend, he said that, oh, we actually do not do this training anymore. So that's basically my, I would say like another beginning of my another difficult quest. Very difficult journey. I think for today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we can continue from this in our upcoming episode, and we'll hear about your second quest or second journey, however you say. Until then, keep in touch, and thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you, Tarek.